Hello, welcome to today's episode. In the last video, we talked about how to set up your first A/B test. By now, you must be running your first experiment and you must be looking at some results and wondering how do we evaluate these results and how do we use these results to declare a winner. In this video today, we are going to talk about some key concepts that might be very useful for you to evaluate your results, and at the end of this video you learn those concepts to evaluate your results. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is a problem that a lot of teams face when they're new to experimentation and they're running their first few experiments, and the problem is around declaring false winners. This generally boils down to two problems. Either it's going to be a peaking problem, or it's going to be analysis problem, or it's going to be a combination of both. And a lot of teams encountered this early on. So teams might be very excited and they might be looking at their results every day, and they might be wondering if the results are positive, so this is it, and they might declare a winner, but that's going to be a false winner. Secondly, you also have to make sure that you're running your experiments for your full business cycles. So teams might be running their experiment for 4 days and they might not capture their weekend behavior. So you have to make sure that you capture all of your user behavior while you're running your experimentation. The second problem is going to be around the analysis problem, and teams might be trusting their p-values alone. The p-values need to be looked into in combination with the confidence interval that you are seeing. So when you are declaring a winner, you need to make sure that your confidence interval is crossing the 0 point so that you know whether the lift that you're seeing is going to be in a certain direction along with the p-values. A lot of the times teams also ignore their sample size and power. So this is something that they decide before they start the experiment, and they need to make sure that they have reached the desired sample size when they're running their experiment and then also when they're evaluating these results. Teams might be having a lot of variance in their first A/B test or their experiment, so they need to make sure that they do the right corrections so that they can look at the results accurately and they do not declare false winners. A lot of the tools that are out there, they help you make these corrections, and it's very important that you use that. So for multiple hypothesis testing, you have to make sure that you use the right corrections that are out there so that you can evaluate the results accordingly. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the 5 concepts that actually matter when you are evaluating your results. So the first thing that you're going to check is either you have reached your sample size or not, and the statistical power is there or not. So before you even start your experiment, this is where you decide your sample size based on a statistical power that you desire to have, and then also based on the MDE that you would want to detect. So based on this, you're going to have a sample size, and you need to make sure, have you reached the desired sample size or not? If you have reached the desired sample size or the test duration, then you can evaluate your results. The second thing that you're going to check is the p-value, but you need to check it in context. So let's say you have your significance threshold at 5% or 0.05. If your p-value is below that, then that's great. You can evaluate your results, but then you also have to look at your confidence interval. And then you have to also keep in mind your MDE so that the real lift that you're going to see is going to be strong. So you have to make sure that you are evaluating your p-value in combination with the confidence interval and also in combination with the MDE. You can pause this video and also look at this example here. That will help you understand what you need to check as a second step. Third, you have to make sure that you have practical significance. A lot of the times you must be running your A/B test and you might be seeing a positive uplift, but that uplift might not be significant. And eventually, in order for you to maintain that variant and develop that variant, you might end up spending more resources and you might end up spending more time on it. So it's better to look back and start thinking about a stronger hypothesis, or start thinking about much more aggressive variant so that you can get significant uplift. The fourth thing is, if your data has a lot of variance, then there are techniques out there that you can use in order to reduce variance. One of the techniques is Cupid. So controlled experiment using pre-experiment data, you can use this technique to reduce your variance. A lot of the tools are going to give you an option to enable Cupid, but you have to enable Cupid keeping in mind the data set that you have. So you need to make sure that you have good historic data. A lot of returning users are coming in so that the Cupid can help you reduce variance. The fifth concept that we're going to talk about is a fix for peaking, and that's sequential testing. A lot of the times it's very hard to stop teams from peeking into results. So this is where you can enable sequential testing. And again, a lot of the tools out there, they're going to enable sequential testing for you. So you can enable sequential testing and then you can peek into results. And then with this, you can decide whether you have a winner earlier or not. Sequential testing can also be used to reach to statistically significant results early on as well. And this is a concept that is very important in evaluating your results or run fast experiments. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is a 6-point checklist to declare your winner and to make sure that you have this checklist in place which you can use to declare either your variant is going to win and you are going to ship that, or you're going to stick with control. So the first thing is going to be have your hypothesis written or documented somewhere. A lot of the tools naturally are going to help you put in hypothesis. Have a very good structured hypothesis. If we are going to do this change, then we're going to see this much uplift, and the reason why we are doing it is based on this particular feedback that we got. So have a pre-registered hypothesis documented and ready along with your experiment. The second thing is, have you hit your target sample size or not? If you have hit your target sample size, then that's great. You can now evaluate your results. The third thing on the checklist is going to be, have you run your experiment for the full business cycles? Have you captured all the user behavior? If you run your experiment for 4 days and your power users are going to be active over the weekend, then the results might be totally different when you are looking at results on Monday. So the third thing on the checklist is going to be whether you have run your experiment for a full business cycle or not. So the fourth thing is going to be around checking for your novelty effects. A lot of the times when you have a variant, users might find it unique, they start using it, but eventually in the longer run, that would be a novelty effect and the net uplift is not there. So you have to make sure that you run the experiment long enough so that the novelty effect is not there. But that again goes back to hitting the target sample size, making sure that you are running your experiment for full business cycles so that you can evaluate your results accordingly. The fifth thing is, have you applied the corrections accordingly for multiple hypothesis testing or not? So let's say if you are doing A/B end test, so you need to have some corrections there so that you can evaluate the results accordingly. And then the sixth thing is going to be if you have verified that all of your segments are behaving consistently or not. A lot of the times you will see your variant in a way where the new users might be behaving in a certain manner and your old users might be behaving in a totally opposite manner. So it's very, very important that if before you evaluate your results, before you make a decision, that you verify whether all of your segments are performing consistently or not. If all of these 6 points or these 6 points on the checklist are ticked, then you can take a decision and then you can call it. Then you can ship your variant or stick with control. The next thing that we're going to talk about is, when are you going to be actually ready to call a winner? So a lot of the times teams might be thinking, did they call the variant or stuck with control correctly or not? So a result is not a decision. You have to walk through it before you ship it or you kill it. So you have to ask 3 questions first, as we talked about earlier. Is the confidence interval entirely above your minimum detectable effect or not? For example, if your MD is at 2% and your confidence interval ranges from 0.8% to 3.4%, the lower bound does not clear your threshold. The p-value might be below your significance threshold, but you have to extend this test and you should not ship it. The second thing is, does the lift hold across key segment? This is something that we discussed earlier as well. So overall, you might be seeing a 7% uplift in add to cart, but your new users might be behaving totally differently and your returning users might be behaving totally differently. So then you have to take this decision in accordance to that. So the third thing that you're going to look into is, are your guardrail metrics clean? So it's very important to have your guardrail metrics set up. So these guardrail metrics can be upstream of where you are testing your experiment, or you have your variant placed, and it could be downstream as well. So it's very good and very important to look at your guardrail metrics and then evaluate them accordingly. If all three are yes, then you ship the variant. If there are mixed results, then you don't ship yet. You have to keep your experiment running for a bit longer. And if all three are no, you have to go back and you have to think about more hypotheses. You have to document your learnings, and then you have to come up with a significantly aggressive sort of a variant so that you can have the desired uplift that you would want to have. Yeah, there are some examples that I've written down here, so you can pause this video and then you can go through these examples as well. Hope you learned some new concepts in this video, and they're going to help you evaluate your results in your first experiment. Thank you for watching.